Hey everyone, welcome into the Ben Maynard program. Thanks for being here. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. As a reminder, the program is available on multiple podcast outlets like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify, among others, or simply just do a search for the Ben Maynard program and choose your option. I always like to steer you towards Buzzsprout because that's where my website is, so it works out better for me. And of course, if you can't resist my pretty face here, then you can always watch on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, I ask that you please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment. I love comments. Last but not least, follow me on Instagram, simply Ben Maynard Program. So there are plenty of ways to take in this show for your dancing and listening pleasure. And with that, we'll recap the last episode. That was the stout tasting. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it really was. And yes, it was a little left of what we do normally, but as I said, it was a lot of fun. Got some of my family involved in it, and it was a little different, bringing a little something else to you, the audience. Little change of pace. We did sample several stouts, and we did sample one mead, and it was really good, and it was really fun. As you know, I'm not a big drinker, so that was something new. I don't drink beer, period, and I'm still not going to consider myself a beer drinker. I don't consider these imperial stouts to be beer at all because there's nothing, to be honest, there's nothing beer about them as far as the way they taste and the way they look and all that good stuff. But it was a lot of fun, and as a matter of fact, we got some good response on that episode. And I have promised you before, and I'm trying to stick to my word, that if you leave comments, I'm going to read them on the air. So I'm going to get into that. Let me see, get into that episode here. Let's look. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a ton of comments, but we have some. And as I said, I'm going to read them. So the first one came from Mark Roth, and he said, "Great show. I really enjoyed how much you guys loved the stouts. For stout newbies, you all sounded like veteran stout drinkers." So thanks a lot for that, Mark. That's what we tried to do. We don't want to come out here and do something like this and then make it sound like we don't know what we're talking about. So we have, in our research, or I shouldn't even say our research, in our search for what we were looking for in those stouts. As I said before, if you watch the show or you listen to it, then you know what I'm talking about. But in our journey to find that perfect stout that we had over the past summer, we've done a lot of looking, we've done a lot of searching, we've done a lot of sampling, and we've done a lot of asking people that are supposed to be in the know. So we have a little experience in that, and that's why even for newbies, we could sound like we know what we're talking about because we do. We do our homework, and we want to deliver a good, fair description of what it is that we were sampling that night. So anyway, all right, enough rambling there. Another comment. This was from, I guess, also known as Glassman. He says, "Oh my gosh, that was so wildly entertaining. Thank you, Darren, for the link." Oh, so he must be a friend of Darren's. "I thoroughly enjoyed the entire episode. The thoughtful consideration of each stout and the tasting notes were great. Jim, aka the Bourbon Beard of Knowledge, had very insightful notes on the different kinds of bourbon barrels used and the notes that they might impart on the stout. Ben's two nephews and his wife were very fun, often had separate conversations amongst themselves, and I had a blast watching Ben trying to herd the cats in an effort to maintain, sorry about that, control of the podcast during an hour plus, where 15 to 19% stouts were consumed. Overall, fantastically fun, great tasting notes, awesome banter, and an hour that was just fun to watch. Cheers to you all. Great job, Ben. You had your hands full about 30 minutes in and on. Great job to the tasters. Perfect amount of tasting impressions and fun banter. Cheers to the brewery, First Class Pizza, Mr. K's, Anchorage Brewing, the stout tasting crew, and to Ben. Yep. Yeah, that was pretty lengthy, but that summed it up. That summed it up. If you haven't seen the episode, take it in. Yeah, good stuff. And I'll do it again. Let me read this last one here. I have another one. Says, this is from Miljan Video. Okay. Hey, Ben, enjoyed the episode, even though I don't drink. Haha. I sent you an email, a cooperation inquiry. I'm not sure. I'll have to look for his email. Yeah, I'll have to look for that one. See if I can find that somewhere. So, as I said, leave a comment. If as long as I don't get 10 or 20 comments on an episode, I'll read them on the air. So I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the interaction and the fact that you're all interested. But yes, a big shout out to the brewery in Placentia. The shout out to First Class Pizza in Irvine. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to Mr. K's Liquor, also in Placentia. And another shout out to Anchorage Brewing Company, because without Anchorage Brewing Company, none of this would have started. The journey would have never taken off. So listen, with that, let's get into why we're here. Today is the Christmas show. Got some fun stuff lined up for you. I hope you really enjoy it. But before I get into all the fun and frivolity, I want to go over a state of the podcast. Okay, and so what that is, I'm going to give you some statistics on this show, so you can see where it is, where it's going, and give me an idea what's going on. I won't sit here and claim that after 2 months of now broadcasting that I have millions of listeners, millions of followers. That would be silly. But I can tell you that I'm having a ton of fun doing this. I do appreciate everyone who is listening. I appreciate everyone who is taking it in and watching on YouTube. The reason why there are the platforms that I put this on is because not everyone has the time to invest in sitting down in front of their computer, or if you want to stream it on your television and watch YouTube for 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, even 2 hours. So, of course, that's why I want to put it out in the audio version so that you can listen to it at your leisure. Download it, start, stop, all that good stuff. But, I appreciate no matter how you take this show in. With that, I want to get started on a few things. I'll start by going over the top 5 episodes on YouTube. Let me adjust this really quick. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, the top 5 episodes on YouTube. And I put out 17. Okay, 17 episodes. We're going to go to the top 5. Let's see. At number 5, that would be the newest one, the stout tasting. As I said, it's getting some good response, good traction, and I appreciate everyone for that. At number 4, episode 12, that was Ben and Eddie Sit Down and Get Serious. That was my friend Eddie, who came in studio, We talked about his 2-year battle or nearly 2-year battle with cancer and how that's going. Good stuff. Great conversation. At number 3 is episode 5. That's Broadway Brian or GQ Brian. Which is it? And that was my friend of 28 years, Brian Jaffe. We had some good conversation there. We reminisced a little bit, and so just good stuff. And Brian will definitely be on the show again. We'll have him on again in the future. I could get most of these people on right now, but with 17 episodes, I don't really want to do that to you, the home and car listener or viewer. I don't want to bring everyone back so soon. So I want to give a little bit of breathing room in between all this stuff and give you some variety to choose from. But Brian will definitely be back on the show. At number 2 is episode 6. That was Deep Cut Dennis. That was the first in-studio guest. And that was a real fun one, talking about his, where his love of music had started and his first concert experience and that type of stuff. Really, really good conversation. And speaking of my friend Dennis, he had a little back procedure today, so I want to shout out to Dennis. I hope everything went well. I hope that you are home and you are resting and recovering well, and that I'm going to see you again soon, very soon. And by the way, Dennis will be back on the show as well, because he's got such a breadth of his love of music, where I think I have a great knowledge, but I describe it as my knowledge is very circular and it's in my world. The bands that I like, the musicians that I like, I go deep into them. I know a lot about them, but Dennis really stretches out his music world. So I definitely will have him back in and we'll talk a little more about that. The number 1 episode on YouTube is episode 11, the Journey studio albums ranked with my buddy Spaz. That was a lot of fun, as all of these shows have been really just a ton of fun. So yeah, that one has obviously gotten the best response, and it's doing quite well. We had a ton of fun doing that show, and again, Spaz will be back on as well in one form or fashion. We'll either do another music related episode, or we'll figure something else out. We're talking about a few things, obviously, when him and I go back 45 years, and we both love music the way we do. We have a lot to cover. So anyway, so now the audio version of the podcast, which I get my statistics off of Buzzsprout. I could really dive deep into these stats, but I don't want to bore you with a lot of stuff that really, some of it makes no sense to me. And if it's not going to make sense to me, it's not going to make sense to you. And it really doesn't matter at this point. Anyhow, this is just for fun. So, okay. So the audio version of this is actually a little bit different than the YouTube top 5. At number 5, there are three episodes that are tied for the top 5 spot, or the number 5 spot. Sorry. The first one is the Steve Augeri album review episode. I didn't write down the episode number here on my notes. I think it was might have been episode number 2. Also tied for number 5 was the Journey studio albums ranked with Spaz. And then the third one at the fifth spot was the episode with my wife, Catherine, and I, where we kind of let you look into our lives a little bit and give our story of how we met. There are 3 episodes at the number 4 spot. The Kiss live albums ranked, The Loverboy episode, that was where I went through their catalog. And then the episode where I ranted a little bit on farewell tours and what exactly does that mean. Then at number 3, there are 2 episodes tied for that spot. My niece Gianna tells her story. So where she talked about her being adopted and reuniting with her biological family many years later. Also, my niece Marina, where she dropped in, and that was just a surprise thing, running up into the studio and hitting record. Okay, so at number 2, we have 2 episodes. First one is Deep Cut Dennis, which is certainly one of those episodes. I mean, it was number 2 overall. Just getting great response. So let's see. Then and then also the episode with Ben and or me. I'm looking at my notes here and I write my name. The episode with Eddie and I in studio. So those 2 are tied at number 2. Then in the number 1 spot, this is going to surprise people. It actually surprised me as well. At the number 1 spot, and this is just the audio version of these. So this is when people are listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and wherever. But 2 episodes tied for the first spot. That was Broadway Brian or GQ Brian. And then this is the one that really surprised me a lot. The Aldo Nova concert review. And no, I mean, not that I didn't like the episode, not that I think it was not up to par. It just shocks me that one there is in the number 1 spot as far as the audio version of the show. So it's just kind of cool. Let's see. Another one here, another stat is the top apps that are being used when the show is being listened to. Let's see. So I'll give you the top 3. 12% of you out there are listening to this podcast on Spotify. 28% of you are listening through the web browser. And now I'm assuming that means that you're doing the search for the Ben Maynard program and you are listening on Buzzsprout. I'm assuming. I could be wrong, but it wasn't very clear. And then the number one app that's being used to listen to this podcast is Apple Podcasts, with 40% of the audience out there taking it in on Apple Podcasts. All right, so I think my last bit of stats right here. Yeah. This is really cool. Like I said before, I don't have a huge audience to this point. It is slowly growing, but more importantly, I'm having a lot of fun, and I am trying to grow this audience. I certainly hope that you enjoy the content that I bring you, show in and show out. Somebody's enjoying it because this is what I thought was really cool. I think I mentioned it a few episodes back, but this podcast is international. It is worldwide. And I just love that. I never thought that when I started this 2 months ago that I would be saying that. So it's kind of cool. And so I'm going to give you the top countries that are listening to the Ben Maynard program. Let's see. There are 8 separate countries throughout the world that are listening to this podcast, and I think it's really cool. I'll give you some of those. This show is being listened to in Japan. Thank you very much for that. Oh, geez. Thank you to Japan. Thanks for listening. I greatly appreciate it. Whoever you are out there, thanks for taking it in. France and Greece. Those three countries are tied the same spot for the percentage of listeners that are taking it in. So Japan, France, Greece, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I appreciate it. All right, then we have two in the same spot, Switzerland and Australia. Yes, I'm all the way down under. It's great. Then after that, the next highest percentage of listens or downloads is Germany. Yeah, Germany. That I think I'm looking at my notes and I have to shake my head because I think it's great. I think it's really, really great. And then the top country that listens outside of the United States is the United Kingdom. So I, the higher percentage that are outside the United States is Germany and the UK. So just to let everyone out there know, I can no longer walk the streets of Germany and the United Kingdom. I'm going to get mobbed. What can I say? I think it's awesome. So outside of the United States, 17% of the listeners are worldwide. 83% of you are right here in the United States. So no matter where you listen, I greatly appreciate it. I can't say thanks enough. It means a lot to me, and that's why I hope that it continues to grow. I hope that you will spread the word and tell everyone that we bring some good content here. It's not the most professional setup. It truly isn't. I know that. I know that I'm still quite raw at this and new. But as I said way back when, two plus months ago, you were going to see this go from the ground up to professional broadcaster. You've seen some changes in studio already. I've tried to make some changes equipment wise to deliver better stuff. Sometimes I mess up. I don't even address it, but sometimes I mess up in trying some different things. I told you before, there's no edit button on this stuff. We hit record, and when we're done, we stop. So you're going to get this show. I'll use the phrase again, warts and all. But thanks a lot for taking it in. And I hope that you have seen changes. I think I'm getting better at this as far as being a broadcaster. Yeah, I think we're just doing things right. I'm not going to bring you things that I don't think you need. Okay. So that's it. With that, yeah. Thanks everyone for taking in the show. It just means a lot to me. And that's why I say at the end of every episode, tell a friend. Because if you tell one friend, then they're going to tell one friend, and so on and so on. And word of mouth is really the greatest form of advertisement that you can get. It truly is. It's tried and true throughout the ages. All right. So enough of state of the podcast. All right. Throw those out over there. Oh, now they're at my feet. Get them out of here. Okay. So I said that. Oh, no. Before. Sorry. One more thing. Before I go on and we get into the Christmas show, I did want to say this, that the one good thing about YouTube is that when you click on a video, you can, you as a viewer, you can see how many subscribers there are to a particular channel. You can see how many comments, you can see how many likes there are, all that stuff. It's right there for you. So everybody knows that at this point, I have 41 subscribers. It's, it's kind of cool because who am I? I'm nobody special, but my goal was to have 100 subscribers by the end of the year. Well, at the time of this show being recorded, you can see I'm about 59 shy of that. So unless all of you out there taking in this program subscribe, I'm going to fall short. So a little help, please. Thank you. So greatly appreciate it. All right. That was it. Last comment on our state of the podcast. And we're going to now move on to our Christmas segment of the show. I love Christmas a lot. And I'm sure most of you out there do as well. I'm sure all of you out there do as well. I certainly hope so. For one reason or another, multiple reasons. And I love Christmas music, but I'm not always so into the, how do I say it? I love traditional Christmas music. I do. The stuff that I grew up listening to when I was a kid that my parents would have playing on the stereo at home. But I like it when rock acts, since I do come from the rock space, or I just like it when other artists take these Christmas standards and do their thing with them, put their signature on them, make them their own. I love some of that stuff. So what I did here is I put a top 10 list of my Christmas songs. So I'm going to share those with you, and I can't play them. I was before I started recording, I was doing a little test run trying to play little snippets of the top 10 here, my top 10. And it wasn't coming through the microphone. I don't know if it was I was trying to play it on my phone, holding it up to the microphone. I even tried to play it on my laptop and had a microphone closer to the laptop. Just wasn't coming through. The sound was muting out the microphone, and it was just in and out. And so it was real patchy, and it certainly wouldn't make for a very professional broadcast. So I decided, well, I think it was 4 or 5 attempts at doing it. I said, I guess I'm just not going to play music. So you are all going to have to seek out the songs for any that you're not familiar with, and put your own playlist together. I do. I have a Christmas playlist on my phone. I think it runs about 2.5 hours or so. I just love it. I love to get in that mood. And so I decided I would put together my top 10 and share them with you. So I don't even have like anything. I'd have no drum roll, none of that stuff. But at number 10 is Joseph and Mary's Boy by Alabama. It's just a really, really cool song. This one's more of a, this is probably a little bit more well-known. At number 9, Come On Christmas by Matthew West. It's a real fun song, real bouncy. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's just, and it's really good. Number 8, Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. In years past, that one was so much higher on my list, but over the years, other ones have come in and kind of bumped that one down. But I just love that song. It's just so cool. It's just a great version. And I love at the end where, they're towards the end of the song, Bruce is trying to go through the chorus, and he keeps cracking up. And I'm not sure why. I don't, to me, it seems like something that maybe Clarence Clemens was doing somewhere on stage, because you hear some ho ho ho's in the background. That seemed like maybe that was what was cracking up Bruce in that one. But number 8, Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That's a really good one. Number 7, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas by Gary Hoey. And for those who are not familiar with Gary Hoey, he's just a tremendous guitar player. And he's done a lot of instrumental work, worked with a lot of artists, done a lot of writing with a lot of other artists. But every year he he puts together his Christmas show, and he goes around and tours clubs with it, and it's usually called Ho Ho Hoey. And so in the month of December, he'll throw a string of dates together and just puts on a great show. Has a great band, and this particular song right here is it's so good. All right, number 6 goes back many, many years. Love it, love it. Father Christmas by the Kinks. I just dig it. It's just so cool. Father Christmas, give us some money. We got no time for your silly toys. Yeah. Beat you up if you don't hand it over, or whatever. So this is so cool. At number 5, I guarantee most of you had no idea this song even existed. Yelling at the Christmas Tree by Billy Idol. What a cool song. And if it weren't for the ones that are ahead of it, 4, 3, 2, and 1, this would probably be number 1. Yeah, of course it would. This song is on Billy's album, The Devil's Playground. I believe that one was released in 2006. I believe it was. Such a good song. And well, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you got to check out that album itself. What a great album. And there's such a cool song on that album. So check it out. Yelling at the Christmas Tree by Billy Idol at number 5. At number 4, song kills me. Oh, it just gets me right here. You know how I feel about music. You know how I feel when it hits you right here in the chest. Little Drummer Boy by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Man, what a great version. What a great version. And I grew up, I wish I could remember the name of the artist that did that version way back. I think it's from the 60s. But I grew up listening to that one, and it's so good. I guess I call that one the original version. But when I heard this version here by Bob, man, just the passion with which he brings those lyrics, so passionate, so good. But unfortunately, it's right there at number 4, but it's just good stuff. All right, at number 3, I'm sure you're all familiar with this one, and it's number 3. Hey, it's a good song. Do They Know It's Christmas by Band-Aid. We all know why the reason why that song was written and why it was recorded. All the British artists came together. Bob Geldof wrote the song. We know it was to provide aid to the folks in Ethiopia at the time. They were going through famine. But the lyrics in that song say so much, and they're great lyrics. And each artist that has a line in that song, they seem to really just, for me, I just feel their passion that they bring to it as they're singing it. And I think my favorite line in the song is by Bono. For whatever reason, it's like the period at the end of that statement before they all start to go into the pre-chorus. And it's, well, tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. And the way he just belts it out, it's just so good. So yeah, number 3, Do They Know It's Christmas by Band-Aid. At number 2, I have 2 songs. I have 2 songs tied for the number 2 spot, but they're both the same song, just by 2 different artists. And that song is the Christmas song. I grew up listening to Nat King Cole sing that song every year and falling in love with it. And my dad had the cassette tape. He had this really, really interesting cassette deck, home stereo cassette deck. I won't even go into it, but he had the cassette of that, and he would play that. It was Nat King Cole's Christmas or something along those lines, because I think Nat actually has done two or three of them over the years. At least there's been a couple of different compilations put together, but that particular one, and that's the song that leads it off, and it always seemed to put me in the mood. And that whole entire album of Nat King Cole singing Christmas songs, traditional ones and not traditional ones, so good. So that song there has always done it for me. Nat King Cole singing the Christmas song. And then in 1991, I believe it was 1991, 1992, I'm listening to my buddies, Mark and Brian, as they do their Christmas show. And for those who are unfamiliar, they would have a lot of music artists come out and play some of their music and always play a Christmas song as well. But they recorded this show and then they would play it back for broadcast. And the writer of that song, Mel Torme, came out and sang that song just with a little piano accompaniment and him sitting on a stool singing. And I wept as he was going through the lyrics of that song. And especially as he came closer to the end of it, the tears were streaming down my cheeks the first time I heard it. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So do yourself a favor. Everyone is familiar with Nat King Cole's version, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But go out. It's not available on any streaming service. However, for those listening, for those watching on YouTube, you just go out and search Mel Torme, the Christmas song. And it's about a 4-minute and 30-second version. That is the one from the Mark and Brian Christmas show. Just go out and listen. Just look it up, find it, play it, and tell me if it doesn't make you cry. Okay? Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, so at number 1 on my top 10 Christmas songs is God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen by MercyMe. And I wish I could have played these songs. I wish I could have played clips of them for you. It just wasn't going to work out. And I'm sorry for that. But this song was not my number 1 song until last year. When I heard this, I wasn't even familiar with this version here. And it is so powerful. There's an orchestra in it. I can't even describe it. There's a choir singing, an orchestra, and that orchestra and that choir coming together and singing makes this song so powerful. I mean, it is a power punch when you hear this song. It's pretty darn heavy. It really is. I mean, look, you can say, "Oh, well, it's heavy is heavy metal," you know. It's not what I'm talking about. Listen to the song and you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. Great stuff. And so 2 years ago, yeah, it actually took over the number 1 spot on my list. So with that, let me wrap up, or let me recap the top 10, and I'll go a little quicker this time. All right, number 10, Joseph and Mary's Boy from Alabama. Number 9, Come On Christmas by Matthew West. Number 8, Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. Number 7, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas by Gary Hoey. Number 6, Father Christmas by the Kinks. Number 5, Yellin' at the Christmas Tree by Billy Idol. Number 4, Little Drummer Boy by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Number 3, Do They Know It's Christmas by Band Aid. And then 2 versions of the Christmas song, one by Nat King Cole and Mel Torme. I just had to. They lock up the number 2 spot. And then at number 1, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen by MercyMe. So that is my top 10 right there. Okay, cool. On to the next thing. Talking about Christmas earlier, and I was saying that I love Christmas. Christmas is a great time of year, but I don't want to just say Christmas. For me, the holiday season starts with Halloween. It's that fall moving into Christmas, and there's just a different there's just something different about the air. Um, there's something different about I can't describe it, but I love this time of year. It's my favorite time of year. Um, I believe that this time of year, um, especially, we all feel that it's important for our families to get together during the holiday season, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And for my family, those are huge holidays for us. They really are. So much so that we actually have a what we call Italian Thanksgiving, and we do that about 10 days to 2 weeks prior to Thanksgiving so that others can so that everyone can have their own individual Thanksgivings. And then even at that, still half the people that come to Italian Thanksgiving are at my house with Catherine and I as we put together Thanksgiving as well. We'll host Italian Thanksgiving, and then we'll host Thanksgiving, the actual holiday too. So we get big crowds for those two, and then comes Christmas, and being the size of my family, we have a big celebration, and it's about coming together as family. Sure, we see each other throughout the year, some folks more than others, but there's just something special about being able to come together that during this time of year. And we put together big celebrations. It's not about the buying gifts and giving gifts, receiving gifts, the commercialization of Christmas. And I don't want to poo-poo that at all. If that's the way you celebrate your Christmas, great. Because I think honestly, for a lot of us, as we grew up as kids, and that's what we thought of. We thought wake up on Christmas morning, run into the living room or wherever we had our Christmas tree set up and unwrap gifts that came from Santa. And okay, that's awesome. That's great stuff. But what I guess what I don't want to get lost in the whole shuffle is the reason, the true reason as to why we celebrate Christmas. I love all that other stuff. I love family, but I don't want this to get lost in the mix. And I'm going to throw my notebook down here for a moment. Hold on. Let me get my glasses on. Let's see. Let's get this. By the way, I have two stories that I'm going to read here on the show. One right now, and then the next one will close out. Let me reposition myself here. And the next one will close out the program. So, yeah, I'm trying something new here with microphones. As I told you earlier, I experiment with the equipment and positioning and all this kind of stuff. I just want to bring you a better show, and I want to be better at doing that too. So, the first story I want to read, as I said, I don't want this to get lost at all, and I want everybody to remember the reason why we truly celebrate Christmas. And it's written right here in the Bible, in Luke chapter number 2. And it goes like this. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judah, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in clothes and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth, peace to those on whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they turned off, or some, sorry. So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they had seen him, they spread word concerning what they had been told to them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise the child, he was named Jesus, the name the angel had given him before he was conceived. And that's the reason why we celebrate Christmas. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. It's so great to celebrate it in other ways. It's so great to be with family. It's so great to decorate. I'm sitting right here in front of my tree, right here in my living room. It's great to do all that stuff as long as we don't lose sight of it. So that's it. No more preaching, no more Bible thumping or anything like that. All right. What I did want to share with you, I'm going to try to put this together so that you all understand what I'm saying. For kids, Santa Claus is like everything when it comes to Christmas. And Santa and I have been friends for, oh gosh, probably almost 40 years. I'm quite serious when I say that. Santa Claus and I are very close friends, and Santa has a way about him. I do believe, honestly, that there's a certain magic about Santa. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it work. And that's what I wanted to share. I have a lot of stories of Santa actually doing his thing and bringing love and Christmas cheer to people, putting smiles on their faces and all that good stuff. But there's this one particular story I wanted to share with you before we close out. And as I said, Santa and I have been friends for a long time, and we hang out during this time of year quite a bit. Um, so Santa was doing this. Santa was doing this thing. It was a. Uh, I don't want to call it a picture taking opportunity, but Santa was doing some work for some friends of mine in the Uptown Whittier area, which is here in Southern California. And they had provided a chair for him to come in as he arrived, um, to sit on, and kids would line up and take pictures with him. So there was a photographer there as well. And that night, um, for whatever reason, the crowd was really light. But I saw Santa taking each one of these kids and spending time with them and really talking to them and getting, I mean, really coming face to face with them. And there was one boy I remembered seeing this happen. This one boy had come up to see Santa, and his mother walked up with him and, "Hi, Santa. This is Dylan." And Dylan was about 5 or 6 at the time. And she says, "Hi, Santa. This is Dylan." And I heard Santa say, "Oh, hi, Dylan. How are you?" And Dylan didn't speak. Dylan had um, he was mentally challenged, so he really didn't speak. And so he spent, God, this gets me. He spent time with Santa. Oh gosh, this is some years ago, so it's hard to remember how much time, but probably a good 5 minutes uh, talking to Dylan. Sat him on his lap. They took some pictures, and I remember Dylan coming back the next year and the next year, and I would sit and I watch Dylan standing in line to see Santa. And I'd say, "Hey, that's Dylan. That's that kid, yeah." And I would watch Santa do his work. Never forgot Dylan's name every time Dylan was there for those next 2, 3 years. And then this year, Santa was doing the same function, um, and it had been some years since Dylan had showed up. And I saw Santa sitting on his chair, the line of kids and line of parents, and oh my gosh, Santa's like a rock star. I mean, it's amazing. And he's so good with the parents, and he's so good with the kids. And that line just goes on forever. It really does. But I saw this kid in line. I didn't see him until he was at the front of the line. He was next in line to come up and see Santa. And he comes walking up with his mom, and she says, "Hi, Santa." And I heard Santa say, "Dylan, you came back. I haven't seen you. How you doing, buddy?" And Dylan, in his condition, he didn't say much, but he had a big smile on his face, so he knew. And we talked, or I saw Santa talking with his mother and him for a moment or so. And so they took their picture, and so then Dylan walked off. His mother grabbed his hand, and I think that this has probably been a good 12, 10 or 12 years since Santa had seen Dylan. And as they walked off, his mom turns around, and I watched her. I watched her from the side there looking at Santa, and she turns around, and she was so blown away and so appreciative, and she says, "Thank you, Santa, for remembering his name." And I mean, just as it's hitting me now, it hit me that night. I was like, "Oh my gosh." She appreciated what Santa did so much. And that's the kind of guy Santa is. Okay. I mean, he's certainly not he's not our savior, but he's a rock star. And he does such a good job at trying to do his thing and stay in his lane, make kids happy, make parents happy, spread Christmas cheer. And there's a time or two where he makes a miracle happen, and boy, that just was something else. It was something else, I tell you. So, uh, Santa was out there working his magic, and he definitely delivers from time to time. Yeah. So I just wanted to, God, sorry about that. Thanks, Santa. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, he's not around right now, but boy, that box of tissue that's up in the studio, I should have it here. Uh, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, since we're talking about the spirit of Christmas and we're talking about the real reason why we celebrate. And so I thought that would be something to share. So thanks for listening to that. All right. We're going to finish this up right here. Well, how do you know we're finishing up? Ha. My, oh gosh, my favorite story, my favorite Christmas story of all time. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but is this one right here. And it's 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Okay. Ooh, yeah. Don't bump the mic. What a fabulous story it is. Written many, many years ago. I think 18 something. Let's see. 1822 is when this story was written. And by a guy by the name of Clement C. Moore. So I thought that I would share this, and I'm going to move this up a little bit right here, okay? So just bear with me because I'm going to move up and sit on the edge of my chair as I read this to you. So close your eyes, sip on your hot cocoa, sip on your stout, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, and take it in. This is, again, my favorite Christmas story. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of middays to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled, and he shouted, and he called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof thing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. Oh, that was terrible. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his cheeks were like roses, his dimples, how merry, and his nose was red, just like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowlful of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of an eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and he filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, as he flew out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Merry Christmas to you and your families. Thanks for listening. This is the Ben Maynard Program. Tell a friend.